Let's face it, when it comes to Stellar Blade, we all know what first catches your eye about Taki. Yes, those character features are hard to miss, but there's more to her than just gravity, defined design choices. As I wrap up this series before the break, I want to talk about what really makes Taki intriguing, I mean besides the obvious. We don't know much about her past, but what really captivates me is how her character taps into the theme of death and memory. Welcome back, Cogitantes. Let's dive in and explore the philosophy behind Tachy, because there's more going on up there than you might think. First of all, let's start with the basics. What does Tachy mean? The game's writers didn't shy away from drawing on Greek knowledge, as we have seen before in my video on Raven, where I discussed the origin of the term androidos, andro meaning obviously human, and eidos meaning form, but also soul. Similarly, Tachy's name has Greek roots. It's less of a philosophical concept and more of a 19th century term associated with rapid speed. You might recognize it from words like tachometer, a device that measures the speed of rotation, often in vehicles, or tachycardia, a medical term for an abnormally fast heart rate. And this brings us to one of Tachy's standout features, her speed in combat. The game's narrative loves to remind us that Tachy is quick on her feet, making it her signature move. But in a twist of cosmic irony, she's just as fast at meeting her demise. What's Tachy's story? After successfully landing on Earth with Eve, Tachy quickly proves her worth by assisting Eve, who struggles to navigate out of the port. Demonstrating her exceptional combat skills, Tachy takes down the Naytiba, even managing to defeat the Alpha Naytiba in collaboration with Eve. However, this victory comes at a cost. Eve, injured and weary, finds herself in no condition to continue the fight. It is at this vulnerable moment that an identified Naytiba, one resembling a harpy, which we have discussed in my video on Raven as well, suddenly appears. Recognizing the danger, Tachy, driven by a protective instinct, attempts to divert the creature's attention away from Eve by acting as a bait. However, her instincts betray her. Unlike other Naytibas, which are driven by brute force, this one is particularly smart. As it targets Eve, Tachy intervenes, but in doing so, her left arm is severed, and she ultimately succumbs to a fatal wound. Tachy's death leaves a lasting impact, making it clear that Tachy's loss is a turning point in the story. This serves as a classic example of what in plot analysis is called sacrificial lamb or catalyst character. These types of characters are often sacrificed early in a narrative to create an emotional moment that motivates the protagonist's journey. Examples of these tropes are prevalent in sci-fi literature. For example, in Dune, the death of a key character serves as a catalyst for Paul Atreides' journey, setting him on a path that defines the entire saga. Likewise, Tachy's death in Stellar Blade is the driving force behind Eve's quest, shaping her character and the game's story arc. Is she dead? Not exactly. It turns out that Tachy's body was stolen by an Alpha Naytiba. In Matrix 11, the Tachy we once knew is gone, as her essence was eroded by the Alpha Core. After a tough boss battle, Eve manages to extract the Alpha Core, leading to a brief conversation with Tachy, who has regained consciousness. Tachy, in her final moments, asks Eve to either return her memories to the Mother Sphere, or, if that's not possible, to let her float among the stars. In a rare display of emotion, something I explored in my first video on Eve, she shows genuine sensitivity in this moment. This moment fuels her desire for vengeance against those responsible for Tachy's death. Despite the numerous hints about the deep bond between Tachy and Eve, we don't get to see much of Tachy's personality in the game itself. However, there is a nice motion comic released prior to the game's launch that offers a glimpse into her character. I won't spoil the content because not many people know about it, and I will leave the link to the motion comic in the description. It is nothing groundbreaking, but the drawing style is pretty nice and it shows more insights on the relationship between Eve and Taki. And most interestingly, it takes place in the colony, which we do not see at all in the game. Actually, I hope we get more written lore of this kind from Shift Up in the future. What's the philosophy of Taki? Taki's story in Stellar Blade offered me the opportunity to reflect on the theme of memories, which are central to the narrative, as clearly represented by the digital memories of Raven, and the game emphasis on memories is also seen through its endings, Cost of Lost Memories and Making New Memories, as well as in a bunch of side quests, like Memories in the Doll, or in helping to restore Enya's memories. There is a subtext about the interplay between past, present, and future in the game, much like the existential framework proposed by Martin Heidegger in his work Being and Time. This needs an introduction, but this will be brief, don't worry. In Heidegger's philosophy, the concept of Dasein, being there, involves a dynamic relationship between past, present, and future. This existential framework suggests that our existence is rooted in our historical tradition, while simultaneously projecting toward future possibilities. It's through this continuous dialogue with our origin, the past, and our aspirations, the future, that we create meaning in our lives through intentional action and decision making. Okay, coming back to Stellar Blade, the android's view of death as a return to the mother sphere by bringing back their memory chip can be seen as a metaphor for Heidegger's concept of Dasein. In this context, memories represent the past and the lived experiences of the androidos, which are consciously preserved and transmitted back to their origin, the mother sphere. This process transcends mere biological existence and suggests that death is not simply an end, but a continuation, a way for individual experiences to contribute to a collective memory or identity. And this explains why Taki cares so much about being reunited with Mother Sphere. In this way, her story won't be lost floating in space. Something more. This act of returning memories can be interpreted also through the lens of Hegelian dialectics, particularly the concept of Aufhebung. In Hegelian thought, Aufheben refers to the process by which something is simultaneously preserved and elevated to a higher level. So when the androidos return their memories to the mother sphere, they accept their death and the fact that they cannot come back, but their individual experiences are not lost. Instead, they are preserved, transcended, and integrated into a larger collective consciousness. This mirrors the androidos' perception of death, not as a final cessation, but as a reintegration with their origin, allowing their personal history to contribute to the future. The acceptance that there is an end of life is something very human. So Taki's last wish embodies the idea of acceptance of death and that her experiences can contribute to a larger continuity. Taki accepts death as a part of the cycle of life and learns that death is not simply the end, but a transformative return to one's origin. Taki's journey in part reminded me of a classical Greek myth from Plato, the myth of Er, which concludes Plato's Republic. In the myth of Er, a soldier named Er dies in a battle but returns to life to tell the story of what he witnessed in the afterlife. He describes how souls are judged and then sent to either a place of reward or punishment. After a period, they are brought before the fates, where they must choose their next life. The crucial aspect of the myth is the role of memory. The souls drink from the river Lethe, which causes them to forget their past lives before they are reincarnated. However, some souls drink more than others, leading to different levels of forgetfulness. In this way, souls that remember more of their past have the advantage of choosing better lives because they can apply their knowledge and experiences. The myth of Er conveys that memory is essential for understanding one's true self and for making choices that transcend individual existence, potentially leading to a life well lived. This is the key to understand Taki's acceptance of her fate. She knows that she will die. She says it already in the motion comic, and she accepts death as the most human experience in the world, being towards death, if we want to read it again with the help of Heidegger, acknowledging that no one will come out of this alive, and completing her existential project, saving Eve, and then asking that her memories are transmitted for those who will come after her. It is a topic that blends well with ideas that I have discussed in my video on Black Myth Wukong, in particular about the importance of defending who we are. Defending our memories and making sure they are not lost is crucial to understanding who we will become, to make new memories using Stellar Blade phrasing in one of the ends. The past is not something to be remembered, but is actively engaged with future possibility. Only in this way, a life well lived will make sense. Through memory, Taki understood this, and with this, she understood an essential part of being human. So what do you think? Do you agree with my theory? What are your thoughts on her character? Do you think she might make a return in the sequel? Personally, I hope not. Her tragic ending adds depth to Eve's character arc, and bringing her back would feel like fan service to me. That said, if they were to explore a prequel, I would much rather see it focus on Taki instead of Raven. Taki's personality and backstory were really intriguing, and I feel like we didn't get enough of her in the main game. I would love to dive deeper into her character, whether through a DLC, a book, or a graphic novel set in the Stellar Blade universe. It's surprising that the developers haven't announced any plans for books, especially considering how much of the game's lore is conveyed through text. Games like Nier Automata expanded their worlds with novels that really enriched the lore, and I think Stellar Blade could benefit from a similar approach. But those are my thoughts. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. I will see you again around the end of September with a new series, either on Nier Automata or on Black Myth Wukong. Don't worry, both will be covered in the usual philosophical and thought-provoking style, and the rest assured, Stellar Blade does not end here. And if you are new to this channel, you should know that we are a pugnacious community of cogitantes, those who challenge the deities of the bards of Twitter and the gospel of the ever-vigilant journalistic clergy. So if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to become one of us. Happy mindful gaming, and see you next time.